Hi, this is Ray from loveyourrv.com. Today I'd like to pass along a few tips for you. Some of the mistakes I've made RVing. I did a video on 5 stupid things I did to damage my RV. That was very popular. A lot of people thanked me, saying that they were glad that they watched it and so they don't repeat those mistakes. There was a number of people thought I was a menace to society and shouldn't even be on the road, but that's what you get on YouTube sometimes. So here's 7 more things that I didn't damage the RV, but they're just kind of stupid, boneheaded moves I did over the course of RVing, mostly when I was a newbie. Been on the road almost 4 years now, so starting to learn a few things, but hopefully these things will help you out. Okay, so the first lesson I have for you is don't forget your expensive water regulator at the campground. I learned this one when one day I left behind my $75 Valterra nice brass water regulator at the campground. And this happened because right when I was disconnecting my water, some nice person came up to say goodbye, and we got in a big conversation, and pretty soon I went on about my duties, but I take the hose, but this thing was left behind. Returned to the campground, but of course no one put it in the lost and found or anything, so they got a nice water regulator out of me. So my tip is we always have a checklist, and we check everything when we're departing the site, and we have a new thing on the checklist. Did you bring the water regulator? So my newbie mistake number 2 is mixing your freshwater stuff with your sewer stuff. This sort of seems like an obvious thing not to do, but it can happen to the best of us. Recently I actually did a goof up myself. In one of my tips videos, I actually laid my freshwater hose down on my sewer box, and a number of people actually picked up on it and told me about it in the comments, like, ooh, gross. Anyway, usually I keep my freshwater hose and my water regulator in this, it's like my freshwater hookup closet. So I keep it away. My sewer box gets stowed into the basement storage, but during that video I was trying to explain how this water thief works, this rubber part here, and I had laid it down on top of my sewer box. So there you can get cross-contamination and make yourself sick. So there's a good tip. Boneheaded mistake number 4. This one also involves the sewer, and on my rig I have a couple tank valves in here, but I also have one valve that sits way under my slide. If I go under my slide here, you can see way up in there between the tires, I have a valve there. So on occasion I have been dumping and forgot to close that valve. So we go to our next stop and it all fills up. So the next time I go to dump, I open the cap, and guess what? I get several kitchen sinks full of water come out instantly. And then I have to scramble to put the cap back on. So, lesson learned there. I always check my valves after I've dumped. I also put on this extra valve, which will also help prevent that. This gives me a final valve. So if I do a goof up like that again, at least I won't be opening the cap and having a big gush of water greet me. Lucky it was the kitchen tank and not the black tank. Ugh. Lesson number 4. This one has to do with the desert. As newbies, when we first went into the desert, of course it's hot, so we left all our screens open, and all of a sudden a wind came up. Well, we were camped in Utah near near a beautiful canyon, and there was this kind of fine red dust in the air, and we didn't really notice it as we were sitting there. We were enjoying the view, and slowly our RV filled with red dust. So the tip here is to close all your screens and vents if the wind picks up in the dusty desert. We had dust all over our counters, we had dust in the carpet, we had dust on the laptops, we had dust. Worst of all, the dust got into the crevices of our windows, and that was terrible to try to get all that dust out. There was dust on the floor, there was dust on the TV, there was dust on my dusty old Beagle. So we would clean all that dust, and then we'd go down the road. Next time we opened the RV after traveling, all the dust had bounced up again. So it took weeks and weeks to get rid of that dust. So that's the lesson I learned that time. Close everything up when there's a desert windstorm. Number 5. Lesson learned number 5 has to do with the RV fridge. Now, one time we were staying at my sister's place, and we'd emptied the RV and just parked it in the driveway. And of course, like a good boy, I emptied the fridge, got it all cleaned out, and the freezer, except for one thing. Over here, inside here, I forgot a small package of chopped spinach. Ugh, that wasn't good. And I compounded my mistake by actually just shutting the fridge. Turned the power off, shut the fridge, and had a package of spinach in there. So now I know what these are for. These on the Domestic fridge are to you put them into the holder there, and that'll prop your fridge open so that air can get in and out. So that was a hard-won lesson. I ended up having to spend time cleaning mold out of the fridge, and man, was there a lot of mold after that chopped spinach decided to melt in there and hang around for a few weeks. Mistake and lesson learned number 6 has to do with that bucket. I usually like to carry a large bucket with me for doing things like washing the rig or using it as a garbage container. And generally I carry it in the back of the truck because it doesn't really fit anywhere in the RV. So I usually weigh it down with something like a jug of water, something inside there. But there was one time where I forgot to put something inside, so I had basically the empty bucket. As soon as we got on the highway and got up to around 50 or 60 miles an hour, that bucket started to catch air, and soon it was flying out of the back of the truck. Not a very safe thing to do. So I've added to our depart checklist to make sure the bucket is weighed down. And like I say, I usually use a 2-gallon thing of water, or I carry a lot of oil, antifreeze, something in there so the bucket won't get loose on me. So that was a really stupid thing to do, but lesson learned. So hopefully someone watching this will make sure to check all items in your truck bed to make sure there's nothing that's going to get airborne once you hit highway speeds. Newbie mistake number 7, finding all kinds of ways to blow the fuse in my landing jacks motor circuit. So of course, if you extend them too far out, you'll hit the end and usually blow the fuse, or if you draw them too far in, you'll blow the fuse. So of course I did that when I first got the trailer. The next way I discovered to blow the fuse is when I'm hooked up and I'm raising the trailer to unload it. There's one point where the hitch slowly moves and I know the weight is off. If I'm not quite looking, I would keep going, and I'd actually start to lift my truck with the jacks of the trailer, and that would soon blow the fuse as well. And the final way I can blow the fuse is, instead of setting my rear stabilizers after my front jacks, I got my rear stabilizers all set up, all cranked up really good before I actually lifted the trailer off the truck. So of course I'm lifting up the front jacks, and the stabilizers are digging in at the back, and poof, there goes the fuse. So those are all things I learned in the first month or so of having the trailer, so thought I'd pass along those little things to avoid if you're a newbie fifth wheeler. There we go, some of the errors I've made as I learned about RVing over the last few years. Hopefully sharing some of these mistakes will help out any of the newbie RVers out there that are just getting started, and by sharing what I've done wrong, hopefully you won't do wrong. I found the best way not to repeat it is we keep a checklist for departing the site and setting up, and we follow that checklist, because things get hectic on the road, you're tired, driving a long way, and it's easy to forget things, so those checklists come in really handy. It's one of the biggest things I can say to recommend to newbie RVers. So until next time, this is Ray from loveyourrv.com, enjoying the Salton Sea here in California. Cheers.